The main reason to catch up with you today, because you've been telling me about this, an incredible conference coming up in Mexico City, being put on by the Texas Lyceum. But before we get to that, can you tell the viewers all about the Texas Lyceum? How long has it been going? What's its mission statement? And why it's an important organization?
Absolutely, yes. So I became a board director. This is my second year on the board. So I joined the board in 2024. It's an application process. It's a very exclusive group. It's hard to get into, but it's a wonderful organization. And so the history behind it is pretty fascinating to me. Back in 1980, a group of young Texans met in Dallas because they felt there was a need to bring together the different segments of the state, so industry, academia, civic, and come together in a non-political, non-partisan, non-adversarial manner to talk about the different challenges that the state is facing and come up with different solutions to help cultivate the next generation of statewide leadership. And so fast forward to today, 45 years later, the Texas Lyceum is here. And the Texas Lyceum is seen as a premier statewide leadership organization that, again, is a nonprofit, a nonpartisan, non-political. And our goal is to cultivate the next generation of state leaders and also to be able to focus on solutions, on real solutions to the real problems that Texans face, trying to leave politics out of it. And it's been an incredible journey. Notable Lyceum alumni have come out from this program. So President George W. Bush is an alumni, Governors Greg Abbott and Rick Perry, Senators Ted Cruz and Kay Bailey Hutchinson, Chancellor John Sharp, and many other leaders, both in the political arena, but also in the education, in the corporate and the civic and nonprofit worlds. And we have a lot of wonderful RGV alum that are pillars of the RGV community, including Alex Mead, Transportation Commissioner, Alex Mead, former Representative Veronica Gonzalez, who's with UT-RGV, Dr. Nolan Perez, who is UT Region and HCISD board member. We have Mayor Ramiro Garza, Manny Vela, and Teclo Garcia from Mission EDC, and many more that have come through the program. And you can see the great impact that they're making, not only here in the Rio Grande Valley, but statewide.
I was going to say, perhaps the group doesn't get that much coverage down here, but I do know that the alum that come from the Valley is quite a distinguished list, as you just mentioned.
Absolutely, and I'll be honest, before I joined the Lyceum, I hadn't really heard of it. It's the best kept secret, but we're trying to change that. And so part of my goal in meeting with you today is to help promote the organization, help shed a light into what this organization does. We are celebrating our 45th anniversary. And so the theme of this year, it's the Campaign for Civility. So under the leadership of our visionary and fearless Lyceum President, Creighton Webb, we launched a national campaign for civility, calling on all elected officials to embrace civil discourse. And so regardless of what level of government, local, state, and national, and given the tumultuous political arena in which we are in, there's no better moment for this conversation. And it's an encouragement and a challenge to our political leaders, but also to your everyday Texans like myself. It's just a reminder and a challenge to embrace civil discourse, to be able to talk about issues without attacking the person. It's okay to disagree, but we can disagree without being disagreeable. We can have a respectful dialogue on the issues. And so Lyceum has people from all sides of the political spectrum. You're very conservative, you're very liberal, and in the middle. We represent all sectors, all industry, and different careers. And so, and all parts of Texas, and there's 96 of us directors at any given time. And yes, and so this year, that's been a big focus in the Campaign for Civility. And, I will say that there was an article in the Texas Monthly a couple of years ago by one of my Lyceum sisters, Jennifer Sarver. She's an alumni, and she's actually from the RGV. And she said it best. She says, civility starts with me. And it's in the way that we talk to each other, in the way that we talk about each other, because that matters. and again, how to talk about issues, and we're going to have different opinions and we're going to have different perspectives, but how to be respectful. And I myself have found, it's no secret, people that know me know that I'm a conservative gal, but I have so many friends and people that I love and respect on the other side of the political spectrum. And I'll be honest, sitting with them and listening to their point of view, listening to their perspective has helped me better understand the issues. It's helped me unravel, what the issues. And I've found that in these conversations, in the civil dialogue that we actually have a lot more common ground than we do differences. And so I think having this focus, this campaign for civility is coming at a pivotal moment in time.
It's quite a challenge for you to take on. That's the cause you want to take on this year, given the climate we're in. So hats off to you as a group. Have you put out, do you know if the group's put out any editorials or op-eds on that topic? Because organizations, news entities like ours need to be running those.
Yes, absolutely. Our website, texaslyceum.org, has an article on specifically focusing on campaign for civility. And it's a fabulous article. I definitely recommend people to read it. And again, going back to that article from Jennifer Sarver, it starts with me. It starts with us, in setting the model.
We'll definitely look that one up. We'll look for Jennifer's article as well. Okay, so let's move on then to Mexico City. When and where in the city? What's it about? Fascinating that you put on such a big, to take on such a big project as that.
I'll backtrack a little bit. One of the purposes of the Texas Lyceum, I mentioned, the first goal is to identify and cultivate the next generation of leaders statewide. The second goal is to educate our directors on the issues facing Texas and the nation to help give directors a better understanding. And I would say the third goal is to engage and empower directors to take that knowledge, take that understanding, and take it to their communities, take it to their key decision makers, so that together we can help drive public policy that will have a positive impact in our communities and our state. One of the ways we do that, we do have a Texas Lyceum poll that has a very real pulse on the issues that Texans care most about. And just recently that poll was rolled out. And historically, we have, the last 15 years, there was 3 main issues that kept coming up back over and over again. And 2 of those were immigration and border security and the economy. And so those were issues that Texans cared most about, given the results of these polls. And so the Texas Lyceum serves as a catalyst to bring different ideas, to bring different perspectives, to bring different expertise, and come together so that we can learn about it in conference settings. So we have 4 conferences a year in Texas, and then we have 1 optional conference that's outside of Texas. And since 2019, the Texas Lyceum hasn't gone international. And so we're very excited to have this, for Lyceum to be hosting this international conference in Mexico City. The dates are July 9th through the 11th. And remember I mentioned about us talking about, sometimes we talk about polarizing issues, contentious issues in the spirit of having civil discourse and trying to get to the root causes and trying to find real solutions. So, this conference, we couldn't have chosen a better topic. The title of this conference is Beyond Borders, Immigration and the Texas Economy. And so, again, we try to have conferences that are very timely, that are very relevant, and that are very impactful. And so what the Texas Lyceum conferences do is, we take a social issue, a public policy issue, and we try to look at it and dissect it from all different angles. I'll give different examples. We had one on water last year. There was a conference on water and the scarcity of water in our state and what we can do and different innovative solutions. Our second conference was on aerospace and technology and how Texas can continue being the leader in space exploration. The third conference was outside of Texas. We had that one in Napa Valley. So we talked about the art and industry of winemaking, and it was called the labor of, The labor of luxury. Our fourth conference was on mental health, and that was an extremely eye-opening conference in terms of the severity of the issue and how we need to invest more in mental health and how we need to be proactive when it comes to mental health. I think for many years we've been reactive. And when you think about it, mental health affects all areas. It affects our justice system. It affects our economy. It affects our education. It affects, our physical health. And so the importance of focusing on mental health in a very proactive light. And then the final conference last year was on the legalization of gambling and marijuana in the state of Texas. And so it was very interesting, and we take a public policy issue and we look at all angles, and sometimes they are contentious issues, and we come together in conference and we bring speakers that will speak on both sides of the issue. So in this last one, we had speakers that were speaking in favor of legalizing gambling and marijuana in Texas, and we had speakers that were speaking against it. And it's fascinating because, look, I'll be completely frank. I've come to these conferences with preconceived notions, and every time at a conference, I have those notions challenged. And I've learned to try to set aside my preconceived notions, in the spirit of embracing this learning experience. And to me, it's just wonderful. And again, sometimes we kind of just stick to what we know or what we want to know and our side of the issue. But these conferences allow us to understand the other side. And so this conference, I learned so much. But it was fascinating. We kicked off this year with a conference on AI and everything surrounding AI, how AI is going to transform, our industry, our workforce, the ethical implications around AI. We just had one on Texas heritage. And so this one, we're excited. We're taking a very, historically contentious topic, and we're going to be having panels that will discuss immigration and the Texas economy, how they are interconnected. We'll talk about the ripple effect of immigration on education, on healthcare, on our workforce. Most people know that the birth rate is declining nationwide and even here in the state of Texas. And by 2030, our baby boomers will be 65 or older. So you have people that are going to be exiting the workforce. At the same time, people are having less babies, and there are less people that are going to be filling those jobs. And so, when we look at those facts, we need to invest time, energy, and resources in strategic and safe immigration reform, because that's what's going to continue not only having a safe state, but also to make sure that we're driving the economy. And so we're having this great conference that will be talking about both, immigration, Texas economy, how they're interconnected. We will have some panels that will bring mayors from both sides of the border. We will have some panels that will bring public policy experts, economists, politicians, and then also industry, the private sector, because they understand how trade affects them. And being in that industry, in the oil and gas market, I can share that, some of the current state in trade policies have not been easy for the oil and gas sector. In our particular sector, oil and gas is one of the very few industries where Texas is at a trade surplus. In a lot of other areas, Texas is at a trade deficit. And so we need to really, focus on that opportunity. And so we have an amazing lineup of speakers. We just got word. So the other part of the Lyceum is not only bringing, high caliber speakers and experts on the topic, but it's also about the unique and elite experiences, having access to these experiences that typically on any given day, one of us wouldn't be able to have. And so, for example, the newly appointed U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, Ronald Johnson, we just got word this week that he's going to be welcoming us. And so our welcome reception will be at his residence. And so that will kick off the conference. We're also going to be having former President of Mexico, Vicente Fox, as one of our speakers. So we're very excited about that. We'll also have former U.S. Ambassador Tony Garza speak to us, Dr. Duncan Wood, and many other fabulous speakers, both on the immigration topic and on the Texas economy, trade, how the USMCA, the need to help reform that, and, all the nearshoring, supply chain issues. And so all these fascinating topics. We're going to have some wonderful excursions and guided tours of the most fabulous museums in Mexico City. And so we're very excited to have this in the metropolis. Mexico is such a rich country with so much history, culture, the world-class cuisine, the stunning architecture, the warm people, and so we're very excited to be going there.
So like you say, you dissect the policy issues to a great depth and have all sides of the argument at the table. At the end of the day, does the Lyceum then give a policy recommendation to the legislature, to the government, or is it really just like a talking shop to just air out the ideas, air out people's thoughts on all perspectives?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Steve, because we continue to ask ourselves as directors, should the Lyceum take a stance on issues? Historically, and the way it is right now, is that we don't take a stance on public policy issues. The main goal is to bring awareness and education on the issue. And so that is what we're doing. And the goal is that, as a Lyceum director, all that knowledge that I gain from the conferences, I bring it to my community and I try to shed a light into those issues and try to drive, public policy by informing our legislators, by informing our elected officials. And so historically, we have not taken a stance, but we have shed a light issues, bringing facts, experts to talk about it, and helping be ambassadors and advocates in our own way.
I can only imagine that the leadership in Mexico and Mexico City must be very embracing of the fact that you're visiting, given all the turmoil there's been on trade issues, immigration issues. It's such a dynamic time, put it that way. And so I would imagine your decision to say, okay, let's do a conference there, they must be rolling out the red carpet because they'll want that dialogue. The officials in Mexico surely will want that dialogue with a group as prestigious. We all know Texas is the biggest trading partner of Mexico throughout the US. And so has that been the case? I mean, are you getting good feedback from your hosts?
Yes, absolutely. Mexico is, like as you mentioned, Mexico is Texas' largest trading partner. Mexico-Texas trade represents 10.4% of Texas GDP. It's about $280 billion. And that is, out of all the states in the U.S., that is the largest sector of GDP when it comes to the U.S. That it's equivalent to about 8 million jobs on both sides of the border, but a vast majority of those jobs through trade are in Texas. So yes, it is so important. And like you mentioned, like this precise moment right now with everything that's going on, it's our opportunity. Some people, I'm not gonna lie, there were conversations about, do we want to have this topic, in Mexico City? But this is the opportunity for Lyceum to really put our money where our mouth is. We are promoting civil discourse. So let's have a conference on a very contentious topic, and let's have civil discourse about it. And in a respectful manner, talking about, with everything that's happening between tariffs and immigration, it's just, there was no more opportune time, but we welcome that challenge. But yes, Mexico is very excited to host us, and we're very excited. My family's originally from Mexico, and so to me, I love the culture and also just the warmness that the Mexican people have. And so this is an opportunity to be able to talk about a challenging topic in a very respectful manner and try to focus, again, and it's hard to do, but trying to leave the political heated climate outside and focus on solutions and how can we collaborate and what does that look like. And so, a lot of our speakers will be tasked with that challenge about let's focus on real solutions, innovative solutions.
And it's 3 days of discussions.
Yes.
So do you happen to know how many of the Lyceum members from the Valley will be going?
We don't have an actual count right now. It continues to change. But I will say that the conferences, they're very exclusive conferences in the sense that outside of our public conference, that's pretty much open to the public. The other conferences are exclusive to Lyceum directors, Lyceum alumni, any of their particular guests that they bring, speakers, and sponsors. So, I'm going to throw my pitch here. We are looking for more sponsors, and if we're asking both public and private sector who have a stake in this conversation, whether it be immigration or whether it be trade. We invite them to come to this conference. There are different sponsorship levels, but being a sponsor allows people to be able to come to the conference and take part in this conversation. And it kicks off with a reception on Wednesday. And then Thursday, we have panels and speakers for half of the day. The rest of the day, we have these excursions at museums, guided tours. And then Friday, again, we'll have panels and speakers the first half of the day, and then break out for fascinating excursions and tours of these, world-class museums. We'll also have dinners. President Vicente Fox will be speaking at one of the dinners. And so we're seeing so much excitement from our Lyceum alum and directors and people. Some people are coming on their own. Some people are bringing their family and making it a family trip. But we're making this a very family-friendly conference. And so we have other additional excursions outside of the content.
So the reason I asked, do you happen to know who among your Rio Grande Valley colleagues are going? The reason I asked that is it seems an incredible conference with so many important topics that I'm going to ask you to come back and give us a report. Yes. And then it'd be probably unfair for you to do it on your own, but you're the person that we know is going from the Valley. But to come back to the Valley and tell us all the major topics that were discussed, what the feedback was, would be incredible for our region.
Absolutely. I will share that Mission EDC CEO Teclo, he'll be attending. And Mission EDC is also a sponsor, along with and I love that we're getting a lot of great support from our economic development corporations. The Harlingen Economic Development Corporation is a sponsor. The Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation is a sponsor. Mission EDC, CoStep is also a sponsor. UTRGV is also a sponsor, so we'll have UTRGV representation. And as you know, with UTRGV's Entrepreneurship and Commercialization Center, there's been a lot of work being done in Mexico to bring Mexican entrepreneurs. And so we also have Diaz Immigration Attorney as a sponsor, and Titan Fuel, we're a sponsor, and we'll be having a speaker at one of the panels that focuses on industry and how trade impacts, the different policies right now around trade, how it impacts our particular sector in the oil and gas.
Well, I could just see one of the organizations down here jumping on that and saying, okay, you've had a great conference in Mexico City, come back and tell us how you got on topics so big, so important for our region.
Absolutely.
That'd be incredible. I look forward to catching up with you when you get back.
Yes, and like I mentioned earlier, part of the goal is to come back and share this insight with our communities to help drive public policy that's will have a positive impact in our communities and beyond.
Well, those are all the questions I had, Lizzy. I really did want to get this preview out there to tell everybody about the conference and to tell people about the Lyceum in general. Is there anything I've missed, anything else you would like to add about the group, about the tour, the visit?
Sure. I'll just share that, a lot of the current directors in Lyceum, before they applied to be part of the Lyceum, they were sponsors. And so they attended conferences through their employers, through their sponsorships. And that was what was kind of the catalyst. They saw the amazing conferences, the insight, the brain power, the camaraderie, the networking, and they saw a true advantage of that. And so a lot of people kind of got their feet wet, met directors through sponsoring. And so I would just encourage anyone out there that is looking at applying to Lyceum, this is a great way to get a feel for it. We are closing registration next week. So if anyone is interested in sponsoring, they can send me an email at lizzydlg@gmail.com. For more information, they can go to texaslyceum.org. But feel free to shoot me an email because I can get on it right away because of the time crunch, and we can figure out, which sponsorship level looks best. But this will allow people to be able to have access to the conference. And again, this is a great opportunity for future potential candidates to meet other directors and to get a feel for the Lyceum.
All I can say is best wishes for the conference, Lizzy. Represent us well,
thank you.
Our region, and I hope it's a tremendous success for you.
Thank you, and thank you, Steve, because you're always, and I've said this before, thank you, because you're always looking for ways to promote all the great things that are happening in our region, the economic development opportunities, And so I just want to thank you for, for being a huge asset to our community, because you're always, I follow you and I follow all the articles. And so thank you for taking time to learn more about it and to help spread the word.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.